Okay, in 5.7, where you're now going to put everything together. We're going to do equations and inequalities with rational numbers. Okay, so these are a bit complicated. Okay, there are several steps here, so you need to kind of take it nice and slow. We just need to just plug through, okay? So let's see if we can do example 1 here. On page 259, we're going to solve this guy, okay? So again, we have many fractions here. We have fractions all together. And we're going to do what we did before last time, right? So because it's kind of the same thing we did last time. So last time we multiplied everything by the common denominator. Right? The common denominator here is what we have, 6, 2, and 4. So it looks to be 12. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply everything by 12. So I'm going to multiply this guy by 12, multiply this guy by 12, and this guy by 12. I'm going to multiply everything by 12. Okay, so now the 12 and the 6 cancels out. I get 2. So I have 2 times -5, which is going to be -10x. So that's what I have here left. 1/2 times 12 is 6. Over here I have 12, so I have 4, and 12 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so this is what we end up with. Okay, now it's much more easier, right? So I'm going to subtract the 6 on both sides, cancels out, -10x is equal to 3. X is going to be equal to 3 divided by -10, so your answer is -3/10. Okay? Multiple steps here, right? We have to first multiply it by the common denominator to get rid of all the fractions and make it something that we are very comfortable with, and then just go ahead and solve it. Okay? So that's example number 1. So that was okay. We've done that before in 5.6. So this is something, isn't really something new. Okay, let's see if we can do what example number 2 brings us. So for example number 2, we have solved these equation. Okay, now we have decimals. 2.3 is equal to 5.14 plus 0.8 m. Okay, so we can keep the decimals and work with the decimals, or we can do something similar to what we did with the fractions. So in the fractions, we multiplied everything by the common denominator to get rid of the fractions, okay? So here, we're actually kind of going to do the same thing, but here we're going to multiply everything by 100. And the reason why we're multiplying by 100 is because I have 2 down here. I'm going 1 and then the 2, second place, right behind the decimal. So I'm going to multiply everything by 100 now. So let's go ahead and multiply everything by 100. I'm going to multiply this guy by 100, multiply this guy by 100. I'm going to multiply this guy by 100. So 2.3 times 100 is 230. Over here, I'm going to get 514 plus 0.8 times 100 is 80. 88. So I have something that looked like the same before, but now look, I have no decimals. It's a much cleaner thing to deal with. So let's go ahead and deal with it now. Minus 514. This guy cancels out on here. I have 80m on this side left. Over here, I'm going to have negative 400, no, negative 284, right? So now let's go ahead and divide everything by 80. So m is going to be equal to negative 284 over 80. This is divisible by 4, so I'm going to get 71 divisible by 4, 20. It's negative over 20. We can just leave it as that. Okay? This is good, we're done. Okay, again, so when you're dealing with decimals, just as though you did, you can actually look at it this way, right? If you wanted to, you could look at it this. So let's start from here. Well, we can say that this is actually the same as 2 3/10. This is 5 100ths. This is going to be 8 over 10m. We can look at this. If we convert the decimals to fractions, and now I'm just going to multiply everything by 100, right? So let's go ahead and make it to mixed fractions first. Now I'm going to multiply everything by 100. So I multiply it by 100, I get this 10, I have 10 left. So 230, multiply by 100 goes away with this 100. This guy goes away, I have 514. I multiply this by 100, I get 1080m, right? So it's the same thing. It's basically the same thing we did. We end up with the same thing. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's that. Let's go ahead and do example number 3. Okay, example number 3. Example number 3, shopping. A sign in a clothing store says to take 1/3 off the marked price of a shirt. You have $20 in cash and a $5 gift certificate. What are the original prices of the shirts that you can afford to buy? Okay, so how much money do we have right now? We have, essentially we have $25, right? Because we have $20 and a $5 gift certificate, right? So if the original price of the shirt was X, okay, what am I going to end up paying is I'm going to pay 1/3 less of this, right? Because because it's a sale is 1/3 off. So I'm going to take away 1/3, okay? And as long as this is less than or equal to $25, I'm good to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this. The way you're going to solve this is I'm going to go ahead and clear the fractions just like I did before. So I have the 3 on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply everything by 3. So I'm going to get 3x. If I multiply this side by 3, the 3's cancel out, and all I have left is x. If I multiply this by 3, I get 75. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I have 3x minus x. Right, so how many x's do I have left? I have 2 x's left. This has to be less than 75. Divide both sides by 2. X is going to be equal to 75 over 2. X is less than or equal to 37.5. Okay, so anything that is less than 37, so I can pay for anything, I could buy anything that's less than $37.50. Okay? And so it was a little complicated there. Okay? Let's see if we can do example number 4. Okay, example number 4. We have an inequality, and minus 1/8 is, let's equal to negative 1/4. So let's get rid of the fractions, and we're gonna do that by multiplying everything by the common denominator. Common denominator here is 8. So let's go ahead and multiply everything by 8. I'm gonna multiply everything by 8. Multiply this guy by 8 and this guy by 8. Okay. I multiply this guy by 8. I have the 8 and the 4, right? 4, so this becomes 2. 2 times -3 is -6m. So an 8 and the 8 cancels out. I get -1. Over here, I have 4, and this becomes 2. Because if I divide top and bottom by 4, this is 1 and this is 2. So I have -2. Okay, much easier, right? Get rid of the 1 by adding 1 on each side. I get -6m, -1. Now I have to divide by -6. Now I'm dividing by a negative number, which means that, this was, oops. So it's -1. I'm going to divide by -6 to cancel this guy out. Now I have to flip the sign because I divided by a negative number, right? In inequalities, remember when we multiplied or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the sign, right? So the negative divided by negative becomes positive. So basically your end result is, this guy is your answer right here. Okay? All right, so again, this is multi-steps, right? But again, it looks really complicated until we get rid of all the fractions. Once we get rid of all the fractions, it is something that we've dealt with before. Okay? All right. Okay, so that's that. Your homework for this section is 3 through 46.